I need to get a credit card. I'm 27 and only just now getting one for the first time. That's one of the downsides of going to medical school. I've never had my own money to spend, so basically I've just been mooching off my parents' card since forever. But now it's time. Before I get something, I always end up doing a bunch of research. I always get this kind of crazy analysis paralysis and try to figure out the most optimal way to do things. I think reading Reddit and also playing StarCraft, where you're always trying to optimize your build order, has led to this kind of perfectionist mindset. But anyways, I think after what I've read, I'm going to settle on these three cards: the Citi Costco Anywhere, Amazon Prime Rewards, and the Chase Freedom or Freedom Unlimited. And here's why. My two main goals were number 1, cashback, as opposed to a travel focus, and number 2, simplicity. I know there's a lot of complex churning that you can do which can really optimize your rewards, but for now I think that's a bit too much for me. It's pretty cool how it's like a full-fledged money-making hobby though. Anyways, these three cards give me a pretty simple way to do things. With the Costco card, I'll be using it for gas, dining, and obviously Costco. This card gives 4% cash back on gas, 3% back on restaurants and travel, 2% back on Costco, and 1% back on everything else. It has no annual fee, no foreign transaction fees, and doubles as a membership card to get into the warehouse. I will only use the Amazon card for Amazon, which is going to be great because I make a lot of my purchases on Amazon. 5% back on purchases is simply too good to pass up. It also gives 2% back on restaurants, gas stations, and drugstores, though I really won't be using this. And finally, 1% back on everything else. No annual or foreign transaction fees. Finally, I want a simple everyday use card which will be either the Chase Freedom or Freedom Unlimited cards. Both of them offer a $200 sign-up bonus after spending $500 in the first 3 months. The Freedom offers 1% back on everything and 5% back on different categories throughout the year, such as grocery stores, gym memberships, gas stations, and restaurants. The Freedom Unlimited gives a flat 1.5% back on everything. Again, there are no annual fees for either of these cards. With these three cards, all of my everyday costs are accounted for in a relatively simple way. And eventually, the end goal would be to add a Chase Sapphire Reserve card. I'm sure you've heard of this card as it gets a ton of hype. It has a staggering annual fee of $550. This is increased from the $450 it used to be for many years. However, I still think this card is worth it. First of all, every year you get a $300 annual travel credit. You also get 50,000 bonus points, about $750 to $1,000 value, after you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months. You also get 3% back on restaurants and travel, the same as the Costco card, but it's actually better than that. And why is that? That's because this next benefit makes it essentially 4.5% back instead of 3% back. With a Chase Sapphire Reserve, you get 50% more in travel redemption when you redeem your points. This is huge because another benefit of the Chase cards is you can transfer points freely between all of them. So if I'm using a Chase Freedom or Freedom Unlimited, I will simply be storing points on those cards, and when the time comes, I'll transfer those points to the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Effectively, this will change all of my 1.5% back purchases to 2.25% cashback purchases, and 5% cashback categories to 7.5% cashback. The Chase Sapphire Reserve continues to come with a bunch of other random benefits. For example, $120 a year in DoorDash statement credit and complimentary Dash Pass, which makes all delivery fees $0. A complimentary year of Lyft Pink, which gives 15% savings on all rides, priority airport pickup, and also you get 10% back on all Lyft rides on top of that. You also get complimentary airport lounge access, which can be huge when you're doing long travel sessions, saving you lots of money on food and drinks you might have wanted to buy. And finally, every 4 years, you get a free $100 credit to get global entry or TSA PreCheck. Overall, I think it's a better choice than the Chase Sapphire Preferred, which is kind of like a baby version of the Reserve. It only has an annual fee of $95, but instead of 50%, you only get 25% extra on your travel redemption, 2% back on travel and dining, and many less of the benefits you get with the Reserve. For now, though, it doesn't really make sense for me to get the Reserve until I know I'll be traveling more. It's pretty freaking expensive, and you need to be traveling a decent enough amount to truly make it worth it. So that might be many years down the line for me. At that point, I'll have to see what the card looks like then and reevaluate. Now, here's some popular alternative cards that I'm passing up. I think for most of them, I have a pretty good reason for going with my previously mentioned combo of cards instead. Some other popular options for everyday cards include the Citi Double Cash, the Alliant Visa Signature Card, and the Discover It Cashback. The Citi Double Cash has no annual fee and gives 2% back on everything if you pay your bill on time. However, since the Chase cards have the $200 introductory bonus, you'd have to spend over $40,000 before the Citi Double Cash Card starts to become more worth it compared to the Chase cards. The Alliant Visa Signature Card is probably one of the very best general cashback cards. It has a $99 annual fee, which is waived for the first year, and gives a whopping 2.5% back on everything. However, you have to have an account opened with Alliant Credit Union to get this card, and you'd have to spend over $20,000 to make up for the Chase intro offer, and an additional $10,000 more a year to make the $99 fee worth it. It's definitely a good option. The Discover It Cashback is also a great card, and very similar to the Chase Freedom with the rotating 5% cashback categories. For the first year, all your cashback is also doubled, so you're effectively getting 10% cashback on all those categories for that first year. It would be nice to rotate this with the Chase Freedom since the categories never seem to overlap, but I think it just adds a little bit too much additional complexity, and in the effort to simplify, can be cut without much hesitation. Just a few more options. The Uber Visa gives 5% back on Uber services, so it's really good if you tend to use Uber a lot. 3% back on hotels, airfare, and restaurants, and 1% back on everything else. You also get $100 in Uber cash after spending $500 in the first 90 days, and there's no annual fee. Apparently, it used to give 4% back on dining instead of 3%, which was one of its biggest draws, but now that it's the same as the Costco card, plus the fact that I don't anticipate using Uber as much in the future since I'll have my own car, this card is an easy pass for me. Lastly, the American Express Blue Cash cards are quite popular. The Everyday card gives 3% back at supermarkets, 2% at gas stations and department stores, and $200 after spending $1,000 in the first 90 days. The Preferred card has an annual fee of $95, but it gives a whopping 6% back at supermarkets and on select streaming subscriptions, 3% back on transit and gas, and $300 after spending $1,000 in the first 90 days. However, Costco doesn't count as a grocery store, and I expect most of my large grocery purchases to be from there rather than a smaller supermarket. And Costco is already associated with a pretty significant savings anyways, so I really don't think these cards are as worth it for me, but they could be some very good options for others. Lastly, there's the Bank of America Premium Rewards, which has a $95 annual fee. There's a 50,000 point welcome bonus after spending $3,000. And you get a $100 airline incidental credit every year and $100 global entry credit. And you can get 2 to 3.5% back on travel and dining, depending on how much money you have in Bank of America, and 1.5% to 2.625% back on all other purchases. And if you can get all the way to that 2.625%, then this card might be the one for you. Now, I did read about some people who use the 6% back on grocery from the American Express Blue cards to buy a bunch of $500 gift cards and therefore effectively have 6% back on all purchases that they make. It was an interesting method to consider. However, from what I read, there are some measures put in place that can sometimes make this method impossible or just not really worth it. And also in the effort to simplify, I think it would be better not to have a bunch of different gift cards lying around with varying dollar amounts, and instead have the simple 3 to 4 card solution for myself that I came up with earlier. Anyways, that's been what I found after doing some research on this topic for a day. Hopefully this was helpful for anyone else looking for good credit cards to start out with. There's obviously plenty that I didn't mention, from complete starter cards and student cards to business cards with very high annual fees but great benefits. But these are some of the most popular and most of all simple options that I found, and the reason I'm choosing my combination of the Citi Costco Anywhere, Chase Freedom, and Amazon Rewards, with the possible endgame of adding the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Again, everybody has to really tailor their credit card choices to what they actually use. Please like the video and also let me know in the comments below if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for even better cards, or combinations that you might know of. Thanks for watching and see you again next time.